There's only one other window that you ever see in Pro Tools, incidentally, and that's called the Mix window. This window that we're looking at right now is called the Edit window. If you ever want to see the other window, notice that there is a menu item in Pro Tools called Window. You can click on that and then you can choose what's called the Mix window. There is a shortcut to get there. On Mac that is Command equals, and I think on Windows that would be Control equals, and the Mix window appears. Right now you won't see anything because we don't have any tracks yet, and we'll get some in a moment. By far the most sensible way of starting work with Pro Tools is to import some music and have a look around an existing session before you start necessarily recording your own stuff. So how do you get music into Pro Tools? The most sensible way is to go to the File menu and choose where it says Import, and you'll see various choices there, and audio, MIDI and video being the obvious things that you can choose. Let's choose to import some audio. And at this point I can look around on my computer and find any music. You might have some music inside iTunes, you might have some lying on the desktop or in a particular folder. And if you don't have any music, it might be a good idea to go and grab some and basically have an MP3 file or a WAV file or an AIF file to hand. I'm going to choose a file which is an MP3 file. This window appears when you do this in Pro Tools, and a good idea is to click the button that says Convert, because Pro Tools likes to convert the audio to its own kind of file formats and bit resolutions and all that kind of stuff. Let's click Done, and it will ask me to choose a destination folder. It will default to a folder called Audio Files. Always leave it at that and just click Choose. And there's one other box that will appear in a moment. It'll import the audio first of all, and then in a minute it'll start processing all that kind of stuff, and then in a minute it will actually ask us where we want the audio to appear. Do we want it to be perhaps at the beginning of the score, or do we want it to be in a separate track and all that kind of stuff, which is the kind of thing that you'd expect. This is quite a large audio file. It's about 8 or 10 minutes long. And there we go. Audio import options. Into a new track, yes. Location, session start, so the beginning of the session. Probably an obvious choice there. And you can see that appearing there. So, why are there two tracks of sound waves? That's because it's a stereo recording, and that's the left side and that's the right side. Now, a couple of things you can do right away with the audio, which is a good thing. Take a look over here in the track counting, or the track window if you like. This gives you a bit more information about the track, and you'll see the word waveform when you import audio. And you'll also see a little triangle. Let me just point on that, and if you click on that, it gives you options to change the size of the view. And let's make it jumbo size, and you can see that's one way of making the track itself get bigger. It doesn't affect the playback in any way. So good idea to see the track as a bit larger. And let's talk about some zooming options that you have too. There are some buttons on the screen up here, and particularly that one is a good one to try clicking on. If you do that, you can actually make the wave get bigger or smaller in terms of the way you're looking at it. Again, that's not going to affect the playback. It's just if the wave sometimes looks a little small to you, you can actually zoom in on the audio like that. A very nice shortcut to zoom horizontally is to hold down the Command or the Control key and tap the square brackets on your computer. I'm going to tap the left square bracket, so Control square bracket or Command square bracket, the left one, and we're basically squeezing down the audio so we can see actually all 8 minutes of the song. Right, I can see the whole song there. Take a look at the timeline that I talked about a little bit earlier, the minutes and seconds timeline. Can you see? We're actually looking at the whole minutes there, and you can see that this whole song is actually 8 minutes long when I'm zoomed in that much. Let me zoom out, and you'll see that one of the things, and that's Control or Command and the right square bracket, and you'll see that it's in fact possible to zoom to an unbelievable degree, you can actually zoom down to the thousandth of a second. Take a look at my minutes and seconds timeline now, and you can see we're only a tenth or so, maybe 2/10 of a second in, and we're seeing, and it's taking up the whole screen. So that's zooming in to an unbelievable degree, and obviously you can zoom in between those two extremes. So it's always nice to be able to zoom in, and that's a very useful shortcut for you to learn right away. Incidentally, over on the right hand side of the screen in this area, Pro Tools is displaying what it calls the regions, because as you build a song, all of the different parts of that song are comprising of what Pro Tools calls regions, and occasionally you might edit or even delete some audio and later need to get it back. Usually you can get it from the regions list over here on the right hand side. If you don't particularly want to see the region list, and there's no absolute necessity to see it, I'll just point to these little sort of fast forward icon down the bottom of the screen there. I don't know if you can see the fast forward icon there. If you click on that, it actually turns off the region, and there's an option. If I click with the arrow there, you'll see the sort of rewind icon appears, and you can actually click on that to show the regions once again. You'll also notice the very same thing over here in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, namely an option to display the tracks and all the different tracks that you're dealing with and the edit groups, or not. I prefer not to. I like to see what they call the screen real estate. I like to be as clean as possible.